Let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating open-source AI skill called outcome-first decisions. Now, fair warning, this thing is fundamentally anti-motivational. It literally refuses to be your cheerleader. So, if you're used to AI agents constantly telling you your ideas are brilliant, well, you're in for a pretty serious wake-up call with this one. I want you to think about this for a second. Is your AI just productivity theater? Most AI tools sold to founders today are basically built to just make you feel good, right? They spit out these fluffy roadmaps, draft up impressive sounding strategies, and tell you your idea has massive potential. But let's be totally honest here. They're mostly just productivity theater dressed up as actual productivity. It's kind of just a way to make a busy person feel even busier in a much more impressive way. And that brings us to a really stark difference. Typical AI gives you endless plans and cheerleading, but outcome-first AI, it completely replaces that feel-good encouragement with a hard, unyielding demand for buyer evidence. It requires a single measurable scoreboard number. And, this is the kicker, it forces you to write down a hard kill criterion before you spend another minute of your scarce time. It's an agent that takes business uncertainty and turns it into proof in action, and it flat-out refuses to do anything else. So here's our agenda for this explainer. We'll start with the productivity theater trap, then look at the buyer evidence ladder, walk through a brutal case study, dive into calibration and crisis mode, cover the stuck-to-shipped workflow, and finish up with some final takeaways. Okay, section 1, the productivity theater trap. Stop building things nobody wants. Let's start right off the bat by exposing this trap of modern AI tools that soften their feedback precisely when your evidence is weak. So, outcome-first decisions operates on a very simple premise. If your idea lacks a named buyer or a defined kill criterion, this skill just refuses to commit to a verdict. It is not going to tell you, hey, looks promising, here's a roadmap. No way. Instead, it asks the smallest, sharpest question needed to fill that exact gap, because its job isn't to make your idea sound viable. Its job is to help you spend your attention on work that creates real, measurable value and completely strip away the busy work that only feels productive. Moving on to section 2, the buyer evidence ladder, measuring real demand. Let's see how this builds into the core conceptual framework of the tool. Basically, this ladder ranks every single claim you make about market demand across 8 distinct rungs. Right at the bottom, we have rungs 1 through 3. Rung 1 is an opinion, like someone saying they like your idea. Rung 2 is a compliment, praise without any real action. And rung 3 is a simple click on an ad or a link. Now, moving slightly up to 4 and 5, you get things like signups and qualified conversations. But here is the catch, and it's a big one. The tool uses these lower rungs solely to design tests. That's it. A compliment or a click is never enough evidence to start coding or hiring. Ever. The absolutely crucial point here is that only rungs 6 through 8 can justify actual building or scaling. Rung 6 is a referral, meaning you were introduced to another named buyer. Rung 7 is a deposit, a signed pilot, or a contract, basically actual money or a binding commitment changes hands. And rung 8 is a repeat purchase. The AI knows that a buyer who pays you today is infinitely more reliable than 100 people who just say they might pay someday. It literally never confuses these rungs. All right, section 3. A brutal case study, the Freelance Designer SaaS. Let's examine a highly practical, honestly kind of dramatic scenario of a founder who is right on the verge of making a massive, time-consuming mistake. Picture this. You bring this prompt to the AI. You say, hey, freelance designers waste hours chasing approvals. I want to build a SaaS to fix this. Should I? Now, if you feed this entirely unvalidated prompt to a standard AI, it's going to eagerly write you a feature list and a beautifully formatted 5-page pitch deck, making you feel like an absolute visionary. But outcome-first decisions? It drops this brutal verdict on you instead. Test first. Do not build. It points out that, yeah, while the friction you noticed is real, your offer is completely unvalidated, and your buyer is way too loosely defined. You have no named buyer, no money on the table. And building before it paid pilot? Well, that is the single most common failure path for solo SaaS. It usually just leads to months of coding and 0 actual buyers. So instead of letting you write a single line of code, the AI forces you into a 7-day cash-proof sprint. It hands you a strict kill criterion of 0 paid audits and provides only 3 immediate practical actions. First, write a 25-name outreach list. Second, write a 4-sentence message asking for a $250 deposit for a 14-day approval cycle audit. And third, send the first 5 messages today. Bam, it's a total paradigm shift from just planning to actually proving. Section 4, Calibration and Crisis Mode, Holding Up a Mirror. Now, what's really fascinating here is how the AI actually holds you accountable to your own track record over time. It does this through a pretty neat feature called Calibration.
Here's how it works. The tool logs all your past predictions. Let's say you frequently predict that you'll just nail your validation calls. Well, the AI looks at the data and reveals that your actual hit rate for successful validation calls is, say, only 42%. So if you come into your next project and claim you're 80% confident about an idea, the skill will literally discount your claim right there in line. It'll show you the math, point out that you actually run at a 42% success rate in this category, and directly call out your blind spots. It might even say something like, look, you typically commit to building before you even hit rung 6. You need to make this a test. It literally refuses to let you lie to yourself. Furthermore, the tool has a built-in crisis mode. If you type in /crisis mode, or even if you just casually mention to the AI that you have under 90 days of runway or that you missed payroll, the tool instantly recognizes that full strategy frameworks are just more busy work right now. In response to that, it ruthlessly strips down its output to just 3 brutal elements: a verdict, 3-hour-level actions you must take immediately, and a closing dollar threshold. That's the exact bank balance at which the business safely shuts down. It strips away absolutely everything except what you need to survive the day or, fold responsibly. Okay, Section 5, the stuck-to-shipped workflow, breaking the bottleneck. So what if you aren't in crisis mode, but your scarcest resource is just decisive attention? You're stuck in the mud. You're busy, sure, but nothing is actually shipping. Well, the skill includes a 7-day stuck-to-shipped workflow chain that breaks you out of that exact state. It starts with a day 0 kill list audit to cut out all the distractions. Then, days 1 and 2 give you a 1-number map. Days 3 through 7 run a cash-proof sprint with daily check-ins. And finally, on day 7, it forces an automatic verdict. You either proved it with cash or you kill it. It's that simple. Section 6. Final takeaways. Inside the package. Before we wrap this up, let's look at what is actually powering this whole thing. It's basically a tiny 100-kilobyte package that is completely open source and integrates directly into Claude Code, Codex, or Cursor. Inside that tiny file, you get 6 core frameworks. You get cold outreach templates that literally ban you from using the hypothetical phrase, would you? And you get 23 named anti-patterns, like automation theater, that the AI will absolutely call you out on. You also get a decision journal that logs your verdicts and auto-flags past due decisions as decision debt. It is an entire accountability ecosystem living right inside your code editor. I'll leave you with this final thought today. If you are totally exhausted by decision fatigue and you're tired of tools that just tell you what you want to hear, you got to ask yourself, are you building just to feel productive, or are you finally ready to face the kill criterion and trade your productivity theater for brutal outcome-first proof? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.